If I don't recall anything from these books, mind your business. What is up? It's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. Welcome to my top 10 of 2021. I'm so fucking excited for this, y'all. I actually narrowed it down to like around 15 books, so it wasn't too hard to narrow it down to 10, but it was placing it in the like order from best to worst that was hard for me. I knew the best like right off the bat, and I know y'all know what it is too, but we're still gonna go in ascending order from worst to best. Yeah, okay. Why did I just confuse myself? Anyway, y'all know I'm bad at retaining information, so I probably forgot like the main characters' names and the big twist and the overall plot, but I know I love these books and I remember how they made me feel, and that's all that matters, okay? But I'll try my best, because that's all we do around here on this channel. Y'all hear clickety-clacketing again? Kevin playing games. We'll just wing it for the most part. Okay, we're just gonna go right on into it. It's a mixed bag of genres. It's a mixed bag of BIPOC and not BIPOC authors. I'm so excited to share this with y'all. Let's roll. Number 10. Okay, the only reason I have this as number 10 is because if it weren't for Christina from Christina's chapters, I would have forgotten the twist completely. But I remember how obsessed I was with this book, and like that's part of the problem as to why I don't remember much, because I read it so freaking quickly. But that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Okay, this is my new favorite thriller of all time. It's about this couple who win this getaway to Scotland, and the husband like, has this disorder that makes him not recognize familiar faces, so he can't even recognize his own wife. But he's like this workaholic author. And then yeah, so they're in this isolated location, and I have come to realize how much I love that trope where it's like claustrophobic, there's nowhere to go. Ooh, that reminds me of Madam by Phoebe Wynne. I'm trying to think if that should... No. I already have my top 10. Focus, Jam. Honestly, I already forgot why it was called Rock, Paper, Scissors in the first place. I remember loving the twists, and I also particularly loved some of the chapter headings. First of all, the chapters are really, really short, and some of the chapters had headings where they defined words that you might not have known prior to reading this book, and they were like pretty interesting words, and I love learning new words and adding them to my vocabulary type thing. So really enjoyed that part. I liked the multi-POV and how one of the POVs you don't know like where this person is coming from and how they relate to our main characters. Loved that part. I just picked this up on a whim too at the library, and I bought it as an add-on. Well, it was a free credit because it was a referral credit. Thank you, Lachlan from Locke's Library for getting me a referral credit for book of the month. But yeah, I loved it so much that I had to get my own copy, and that is rare if I originally read it from the library. You know, would recommend, as I would with all of these books. Hence, top 10. Oh my freaking god. Alright, number 9 is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is another one I picked up on a whim. I saw the ARC available at work, so I grabbed it, read it during my 15-minute break, and I couldn't put it down. Again, this is another one that the only reason why it's so low on the list is because I don't remember much about it, but I remember absolutely loving it, and there's so much like commentary about being black in the publishing industry, and then there's a lot going on in this book. So there's romance, there's mental health rep, there's standing up for yourself as a woman, standing up for yourself as being a minority. I love books about books and books about writers. Oh, and I love a second chance romance. That's what this is too. That is my favorite romance trope if you didn't know, and this definitely delivered on that. It's about this couple who dated, I think in high school, and then they like rekindled at this author event. So they spend a week together, and she is going through some shit, and then she finds out that he was going through some shit too. And then there's this like kind of mystery aspect in it too, and there are a bunch of steamy scenes, and I already want to reread this book. Wow, I tabbed this to freaking hell and back, and I don't even have a key for it, so I gotta figure out what each tab means. And I really like books where chapters are not just the numbers or anything, but they actually have chapter titles. Love this one. Would highly recommend if you're looking for a romance that's not like the usual formula of romances. Number 8 is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This was one of my highly anticipated this year as soon as I found out about it. It came out in June. I had the arc since like the beginning of the year, and then I got a finished copy from Morgan Reads for my birthday, and I did read the art copy and annotated the art copy, which was from my friend Christina from The Literary Lifestyle on Instagram. This is one of the most atmospheric books I've ever read. This is one of the most autumnal books I've ever read. I really loved the magic system and how it talks about magic applying to real life and applying to your potential. Like, it's not just about the witchiness and it's not just about the magic in this book. You read the quotes and then you just feel how you could connect it to your real life and apply it to your own aspirations and living up to your own potential, discovering your capabilities that you might not have known you had. So this is about this girl named Clara. Wow, I actually remembered the main character's name. Who is she? So she is an Everwitch. I think that's what they're called. Yes. Wow, I'm doing great. So she's an Everwitch, which means unlike the other witches that aren't Everwitches, who only have like strong powers during their certain season that they're like assigned to, she has strong powers throughout the whole year and through all the seasons. She is navigating how to use these powers that she didn't really ask for, that she doesn't know how to utilize for like the greater good, I guess. Like, she doesn't know why she was chosen to be an Everwitch and shit like that. And there's like a little love interest. The writing did get the typical cheesy YA romance type of writing. It did get that way sometimes, but I was able to look past it and still give this 5 stars because it was such a fun read and it was so vividly written. Each of the parts is a different season and you could really feel like you're in that season when you're reading it. And I really like the dynamic between the characters and just everything with the world building and how nature is incorporated into the magic system. It's so good, y'all, and I can't wait for Rachel Griffin's next book, which I think comes out next year. The next book I have is Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is coming up at number 7. So this was my book club pick for the Full Moon Book Club in July. I specifically made it my book club pick for that month because July is my birthday month and Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author of all time. This was the last book I needed to read of hers. All the books she's written, I've read. And this book in particular made me cry on page 6 in public at a coffee shop. I don't think I'll ever forget that. So I knew this was going to be a tearjerker. I just didn't know it was going to be that soon and that intense. So you know from the synopsis that Elsa Porter's significant other dies, and it's so sad, y'all. And then it just follows her going through this grief and navigating life without Ben, her significant other, and then who helps her throughout the journey and who she meets along the way. And then she works at a library too, so that was relatable because same. There were so many scarily relatable parts when I was at the time of my life when I was reading this book. One of them is, yeah, she works at a library and then she meets this old man who's a regular at the library, and like he plays a big role in her recovery through the, you know, grief and everything too. And it's just such a wholesome but also devastatingly heartbreaking story. This is actually Taylor Jenkins Reid's debut, and if I didn't know that, I never would have thought it was her debut because I liked this more than Malibu Rising, which was her newest work. So take that as you will, I guess. Next, I have Book 2 Beloved, Ace of Spades. I actually read this 400+ page book on my phone, and your girl enjoyed it. So that in and of itself says a lot. So if you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard about this book, this is basically Gossip Girl meets Get Out, and that is the most accurate description of this book that you could ever think of. So there are 2 black students at this predominantly white private school. There's this anonymous entity going around spreading secrets about these 2 black kids, targeting these 2 black kids, and you just go through them trying to investigate and discover who is running this anonymous news source, gossip source, and the reasons behind it. And it's just so messed up, y'all. It takes a little bit of time to get there. It's also like you don't get bored because there's always something going on. You're always finding out something new. There are people backstabbing other people, and it's just a wild ride. I know this book is going to be on a lot of people's top 10 of this year, and rightfully so. Very well deserved. Okay, this was one of my first books that I read in 2021, so I don't remember much about it. Like, I know it made an impact on me because it's a hilariously written book. Keep in mind it's a satire, so if you don't keep that in mind, it's easy to get offended by this book. Like, I knew going in that it was purposefully satirical, and I was still like, no way did this author just write that. Black Book I didn't even say the freaking book. This is a debut novel as well, and it is basically The Wolf of Wall Street. This guy, forgot his name already, Darren, lives with his mom, works at Starbucks, like is content with his life, just hanging out with his girlfriend every now and then, you know, he's fine. And then this like white CEO dude walks into Starbucks and basically recruits him for this like high-end tech company in New York. So he accepts it because, you know, opportunity went knock knock knocking, and so he goes to this company and he finds out he's the only black employee. So the first week of training was like hell week or whatever, and everyone's treating him like shit. It's so freaking funny, y'all. Like the amount of times I cackled during this book, it was actually ridiculous. And then after a few months and like he gets burnt out by this company, he leads his own little rebellion group of like young minorities. They like go against the sales force and everything. It's just a bunch of commentary on how the corporate world works and how they mistreat their employees and everything, and it's just so well done. And I don't hear enough people talking about this book. Like, where is the hype, y'all? Number 4 is Tokyo Ever After by Miko Jean. Okay, so this probably wouldn't be this high up on the list if it didn't have such a special place in my heart, because this was my very first buddy read with Bessie Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. But it is still a really like wholesome, good, lighthearted, fun read. It's basically Princess Diaries but make it Japanese, and it's so freaking good, y'all. It's so cute. There's a bad boy cinnamon roll love interest who is the bodyguard of Princess Izumi, but she didn't know she was a princess, and then she moves to Tokyo and does all the princess training and stuff, you know, and she's half Japanese and half American, so she's struggling with this like not feeling American enough and not feeling Japanese enough and getting like culture shock and everything while she's learning how to be a princess and dealing with all of the things that comes with that, and then also balancing this love interest, and it's just it's so cute. And the second one comes out next year and I am stoked, y'all. Like this goes by so fast too, so if you're looking for like a lighthearted, fun, quick young adult book, pick this one up. Number 3 is The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Baker. All right, this one took me by utmost surprise. Is that even phrased correctly? I don't even know, I don't even care, but I never heard of this book until I saw it as a pick for book of the month in November. It was the only one that like struck my interest because in the synopsis it talked about like the goddess of death and British reapers and Japanese shinigami and yokai demons, and I was like, I'm here for it, let's go. No idea what I'm getting myself into, but we're just gonna go for it. And y'all, I freaking devoured this book, and I could not stop thinking about this book for like weeks afterwards. I still think about this book, and that's how you know like it's one of my favorites. This is my favorite fantasy of all time. Definitely my favorite YA fantasy. I'm so glad it's not a standalone. If you know me, you know I love me my standalones because I can't finish series for my life. But I'm so glad this has a second book coming out whenever it comes out, but whenever it does, best believe if I get an arc to that book, I might actually become a puddle of tears. Okay, so anyway, this is about a girl named Ren who is half British Reaper, half Japanese Shinigami, and then same goes for her brother Niven. And then they go on this mission, basically this journey to the underworld, and they have to like meet with the goddess of death, and then they meet this dude named Hiro who like comes with them on this journey. There's a reason for the journey, but I'm not sure if it's a spoiler or not, so I don't want to like voice that right now. And they fight all these yokai demons. The vivid imagery of this writing, y'all, like this is a debut novel and the writing is just so strikingly phenomenal. Like I could visualize all these fantastical creatures that don't exist in our world, and that is so rare for me, and that's how I knew. I was like, okay, this is gonna be 5 stars. It also had some humor, the witty banter between the characters. Love the character dynamics in this one. Love the sibling dynamics in this one. The juxtaposition between the siblings' personalities, because Ren is very like gung-ho, like impulsive, reckless type of bitch, you know, she a bad bitch, and then her brother Niven is just this like sweet little cinnamon roll that doesn't even want to kill people, but like he has to because he's a British Reaper. This is another one similarly to Tokyo Ever After, where she lives in London, but she's also half Japanese. So then she goes to Japan and she doesn't feel Japanese enough, but then in London she doesn't feel English enough. She just always has this struggle of like, I don't belong anywhere and blah, blah, blah. That was one of my only gripes of this book, was that that part was like emphasized a little bit too much. Like, we get it, you know? Like, and she used a lot of the same words to emphasize that topic. But other than that, I really enjoyed this book. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the journey that these characters went on. The dialogue, I think, was probably one of my favorite parts, and the cover is stunning. I want multiple copies of this book. Like, I did not expect to love this book as much as I did, like, at all. All right, y'all, coming in at number 2, I just finished this book yesterday. This is the reason I waited so long to film my top 10, because I knew this one was gonna be on it, but I wanted to finish it before filming to make sure. That is Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan. I have not heard a single person talk about this book. I have never heard about this book anywhere until I was shelving books at work and I saw this in the new fiction section. And I kind of hate the cover, but I was curious and I opened to a page and I read a couple pages at work and I was like, I need to own this book, and I know it's gonna be one of my favorites because I could already tell how raw and brutally honest the writing is. I'm gonna say a lot of the same things that I say in my blog where I read this, so bear with me. This is a literary fiction about this woman who craves affection and desires being vulnerable, and she has this sick need for being mistreated and abused, and she's like very self-aware. Like, she knows what she's putting herself through, and she like asks for these men to mistreat her basically. And like, there are so many trigger warnings in this book, so like, be careful. Like, tread with caution, look up trigger warnings before you go into this, because I might be forgetting some. But trigger warnings for rape, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, sexual anything. There's a lot of sex in this book. Parental abuse, there's body dysmorphia, there's eating disorders, depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicidal thoughts. Pretty much every trigger warning under the sun you'll probably find in this book. So that being said, I still think it's beautifully written. I think it's so, I don't even know how to explain it. On the back says it's a blistering anti-romance about the seductive destruction of trying to find self-worth in the gaze of another, and that is just so well put that like I have no other words for it. She goes through her experiences with these men, living with some of them, hanging out with some of them. Oh, there's also trigger warnings for cheating, alcohol abuse, drug abuse. It's also about like obsession, love, and vulnerability, craving validation from others, lack of self-love. There's just so much packed in this book, and like, it goes by so quickly because a lot of the chapters are so short, like literally 1 to 2 pages, but the writing is so deep and like carves into your freaking soul. Like, I'm not even joking. So many parts damn near made me cry, and it's just so painfully written, but like in a beautiful way. This isn't me like romanticizing what she's going through, but I think it was just so enjoyable for me because there were so many relatable parts. Like, I highlighted the shit out of this book, I annotated the shit out of this book, and yeah, this is number 2 of 2021. And lastly, of course, I think y'all saw this coming, number 1 of 2021 is okay, not it being backwards, cool. Oh, not it being upside down too. A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I have not shut up about this book since I first read it. I sobbed at the last page of this book when I first read it. I reread this book this year already. It's a reimagining of Dracula's Brides, but make it polyamorous, and it's just so freaking beautiful. It's some of the most lyrical, poetic writing that you'll ever read, I promise. I've gotten a countless number of people to read this book. It's actually insane. The author and I are pretty much friends on Instagram because I've posted about it so many freaking times and she's seen every single one. I'm just obsessed. I literally have this as my lock screen. I have it on a canvas print hanging up in my bedroom. It's literally unlike anything I've ever read before, and it goes by so quickly because it's a novella. A lot of the pages aren't from top to bottom full of text. It explores toxic relationships like no other book I've ever read, and it's not just about it exploring toxic relationships. It's about the intricacies of what makes a toxic relationship. It's the subtleties that no one really talks about, that don't explicitly like scream toxic at first glance, but when you look at all the little things as like a composite, if that makes sense, then that's when it becomes toxic. And this book just elaborates upon that so well. Like, that is such an understatement. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just so freaking good. I could literally cry just thinking about how much I love this book. So we're gonna move on before that happens, and I'm gonna end this video. Let me know if any of the same books made it to your top 10 of 2021, or if you're now excited to read any of these books. If you made it to the end of this video, put the trophy emoji down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Hope y'all had a great day. Stay safe and stay positive always, and I'll see y'all in my next one. Bye!